All right, hey, welcome back everybody to Cole's Farm here in Jacksonville, North Carolina. So first and foremost, it has been a while since I made a video, probably since about early to mid-May. So it's June 16th. Happy Father's Day to all my fellow dads out there. Let's see, the weather is in the low 80s. I think it's about 81 or so. The humidity's in the mid 60s. And I'm going to be doing a lot of work today because one, it's been a while since I've inspected the hives and I got a few things going on here. So, excuse my voice, I'm getting over a cold as well. All right, so hives 1 and 2, I'm going to get into them, do a quick inspection, and I'm going to add a super. So why am I going to do that now that I've already pulled the supers and harvested my honey, right? So one of my plans this year is to get the new supers that I have, which is quite a few of them, drawn out and ready for next year's spring, right? So you always got to be thinking ahead. So I'm going to add supers to all the hives. Hive 3 and 4, I'm going to add a second deep, and nuke number 1, I'm going to transfer this into a 10 frame deep. So speaking of adding boxes, it's typically swarm season all the way through June or so. And I had just posted a short video on Instagram and shared it to Facebook, of course, of one of our swarm traps on the corner of the property. I noticed a few field bees about 3 or 4 days ago checking it out. And sure enough, on the way over to the bee yard, there is a mess of bees going in and out of this thing. So I haven't opened it up yet, but I'm taking an educated guess, and I'm going to say a swarm moved in. So not knowing if it's one of my swarms or somebody else's, I'm going to have to pay close attention today when I'm inspecting these hives to see if one of them is queenless. All right, so enough of me yapping. Like usual, I'm going to get into hive 1, do a full inspection, and then add a super. Same thing for hive 2, add some boxes, some deeps to 3 and 4, and move nuke number 1 into a 10 frame. So it's basically a DERF at this point. Honey harvest is over, pulled the supers, extracted our honey last week, which will be available this Saturday on the 22nd from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. to purchase. If you're in or around the Jacksonville, North Carolina area, there's an event on our Facebook page. Just mark yourself as going or interested, and you'll get a reminder before the event starts, of course. All right, so why am I going to add the supers? Well, it's kind of a two-part thing. So I'm adding the deeps, but one of those frame spots in the deep is a 1-gallon division board feeder. So I'm going to be supplementing the bees 1-to-1 syrup, mainly because 1, it's a DERF, 2, they can draw out any new frames, which there's quite a few. I'm going to be doing a lot of checkerboarding today. And 3, once they use up that space and draw out the comb, the supers will be on. Like I said earlier, the goal this year is to get the supers drawn out so they're ready for next year. Okay, so for real this time, enough of me yapping. Let's get into hive number 1 and see what they have going on. I feel like that scene out of Frankenstein with my smoker when the doctor's like, it's alive, because this thing keeps dying. You gotta take the top off and bring it back to life. And hey, I don't know if y'all can tell, but goldenrod is popping up like crazy. And go figure, everywhere that I didn't put the weed barrier in and around the hives, the goldenrod is just popping up right through it. So all right, let's get into hive 1 and see what they got going on. And make things easy inspecting, I got my little flashlight here. Shared that tip a while ago. Yeah, this is by far the longest that I have ever gone between inspections. I mean, it's been, no kidding, a full month. Oh, so hey, I used this I use this deep as one of my supers to move the queen excluder down between the two deeps. So this has been on for a week. Yes, so this has been on for a week. Pulled it last week to harvest the honey, so I'm curious to see how much work the bees have done to clean up the comb and if the queen has started to move up here or not. I think I will be able to tell, depending how the comb looks, whether or not the queen has, well, the bees have moved up here and started cleaning stuff up, because I used that needle roller and it really messed up the comb. But yeah, this looks like they've gotten in here and already really started to clean it up. Those are just some dry queen cells, or queen cups. So moving through this box might be pretty quick. Like I said, I added this box back last week after harvesting some honey. So yeah, all these cells were destroyed with the roller. Just like this way to untap the honey. But they've already come in and made everything into a perfect hexagon again. So I'm just seeing if the queen has moved up here yet and started laying any eggs. Should be very easy to tell considering how clean all the comb is. Probably going to grab one of these frames as well and add a vision board feeder. So yeah, easy. Yeah, we got some eggs right in this area. Pollen. But yeah, eggs for sure. They look like they're standing straight up, maybe canted over just a little right here. So that means the queen's been here in the last day or two. So back to what I was saying earlier about the swarm trap. This this hive should be queen right, considering there's eggs right here. Have to worry about this hive having swarmed, which is a good thing. But yeah, some of these frames that have the darker comb, it is really difficult to see down in the cells. But if you have a cheap little flashlight like this, it makes seeing down in the cells 10 times easier. Oh yeah, this queen's a beast. So this whole area, they've already started to spin. So day 3 or 4, and they're feeding on some nice royal jelly. So yeah, this queen has wasted no time moving up into this top box. And considering I use this as a honey super, meaning I put the queen excluder between the two brood boxes for about a solid month, this hive and this queen, it should have felt like they just got added a new deep last week when I got done extracting the honey. So I doubt this hive will show any signs of swarming anytime soon. So yeah, they're doing good. So I'm actually not going to go all the way through this hive, because every time you get into your bees, you're disturbing them. So you don't always have to find the queen. If you can find signs of her, evidence of her, that in the form of eggs, which I just did, you really don't have to go through the entire hive. Let me check Let me check this frame real quick for eggs because I need to make room for the division board feeder. And the outside frames, just like that looks like. They usually just use it for food, which it just looks like some nectar. So just knock off as many bees as possible. Make some room for the division board feeder. And I'm gonna go grab that right now. Yeah, these things ain't half bad. They hold a gallon. They're advertised as taking up one frame, which sometimes it's a really tight fit, especially when you have some drawn out comb like this one. But you just gotta make it work, which sometimes is really easy to say. So let's try this. Actually, the bees are getting a little fussy. Smoking a little, and it'll keep my smoker alive. So let's do this. Let's put the feeder in first, and see if we can get the frame in, which I imagine is going to be a pain. Let's do it this way, maybe. Maybe the bees would move out of the way, it's a little easier. Yeah, well, that's that. Okay. Box that up. Hive number 1 looking good. Quick recap for each hive inspection today. So, used the top deep as a super, which I harvested last weekend. Added it back Sunday afternoon, I believe. So it's been out here for a full week. And the queen has already started to lay some eggs on frames in the middle, probably frames 5 and 6. And added the division board feeder, which later today I'm going to make some syrup, come back out, and then fill the division board feeders up. And then the frame I pulled, I'll just leave it over here for a little bit so the bees can find their way home. And that's a good frame for a swarm trap or a nuke, which I will be transferring that swarm that I caught, assumingly, most likely it's a swarm, transfer that next weekend. If it's weird, but you know, it's just how it is. All right, let's do this. I have not been in this colony in a long time, so I'm very curious to see how this queen's doing. So, first frame, kind of typical, which is weird considering how long they've been in there, that the queen hasn't started to lay any eggs on that thing. And that's nothing but food as well. Food, nectar. So yeah, this may have swarmed as well. This may be the colony that swarmed that's over in the tree. Well, it doesn't seem like much. So this was the split that I made from Hive 4, where I found 2 frames that had about 20 queen cells. This frame had a few, I think 4, as you can see here. But this queen's still doing her thing. She's still laying a ton of eggs. There's eggs throughout, some spun larvae, so she's still in here. Maybe they just need some more room. And I'll definitely get them some food. Yeah, there's eggs in practically every single cell. So this colony should blow up pretty soon. There's not a whole bunch of bees, which you would think finding the queen would be rather easy. But like I said, you know, nonetheless, as long as you have eggs, and this is a first for me. One of the cells caught my eye, and it has 3. I'm looking at 3 eggs, but that's the only one. Every other cell has 1 egg. I'm going to take a closer look just to double check I don't have a laying worker. Now it's just the one cell. I'm gonna, let's see. That's not even worth trying to really put it on camera. But yeah, it's just the one cell. Maybe she got overly happy with that one, or maybe that was one of the first cells she started laying in. That's the thing with newly mated queens. I guess it takes them a little bit to figure out how to lay eggs, and you might find a few cells with multiple eggs. So as long as you find a few and not every single one, you shouldn't have a laying worker. But yeah, other than that one, there's just 1 egg in each cell, so that's fine. Once I get done moving this last frame, I'll take a look in the box, because sometimes the queen likes to avoid the beekeeper entirely. Just to make sure she's not in there and, you know, doesn't get transferred over. Alright, so that's that. Done this a few times now, so not too much thought required, but that is how you transfer 5 frames from a nuke to a 10 frame. Just simply checkerboard them, which is entirely, you know, if that's your preference, go for it. If not, you know, it's fine. You're not going to harm anything. But yeah, I'm gonna separate this box and just knock the rest of them in there, just to make sure the queen wasn't on there. And then set this aside, slide this box on over where they used to be, grab the inner cover and the outer cover, and they are in a 10 frame now. So later today, I don't have a division board feeder in this one, just because obviously I just transferred them into the 10 frame. But yeah, later today for sure, I'll put a Boardman feeder on the front with a, or 2 I think, with some quarts, so I'll give them a ½ gallon. And I'll probably have to replace that in a few days as they start to build up. Alright, let's give hive number 2 some welcome smoke. This hive did pretty good this year. They filled out a very solid shallow super, which is fantastic. That yielded about 20-25 pounds of honey. Alright, so same thing. I'm going to get into these bees, move one of the frames from the top to make room for a division board feeder, which you saw me already grab, and see how they're doing. So unlike hive number 1, I left this as a traditional double deep colony and added the super on top. So I have not inspected these frames. Actually, I take that back. I grabbed 3 deep frames out of here which were solid with honey, and I used them to extract as well. And I can't really remember which frames those are anymore, but I'm sure we will be able to tell. Let's give them a little smoke, let them know we're here, and get to it. As you can see, the goldenrod is growing like crazy, which is a really good thing come the fall. That's pretty much the only source of nectar that these bees will have, and they're already filling this up. So I mean, there's still a pretty good flow on right now. This thing is full of nectar. That had some good weight to it as well. Yeah, check that out. Look at all that nectar in there and pollen. This is a very strong hive. This is one of my better producing hives, stronger hives for sure. Usually kind of calm. I feel like I jinxed myself now that I said that. Yeah, I mean, look at this. Mid-June and they're still packing away. Some spun larvae down there. It's kind of weird looking. Yeah, they're still packing away some nectar and curing it into honey. To all my viewers, this is going to be one of those longer videos, and I apologize in advance. But that's just how things go. Unless something changes drastically, this hive should be pretty healthy going into winter. I mean, I know it's only June and we got about 4 to 5 solid months before any sort of first frost, but for all you beekeepers that are unsure, this is how your colonies, well, this is what you want your colonies to look like and be doing this far in advance of winter. This frame's got some weight to it. It's probably about 5 to 7 pounds. But the point I'm trying to get to is they're storing away a lot of food. Granted, they burn through a lot of food as well, week by week. But as long as they keep this up, there should be no problem going into winter. So a lot of good looking brood. Brood's kind of spotty on that side. Probably just because they're filling in whatever cell they can after the bees hatch with nectar. So again, looking for eggs, of course. If I don't find the queen, which none of my queens are marked, I don't necessarily think it's worthwhile. Some people do, some people don't. Got some queen cups. They're dry, as folks refer to them, meaning there's no egg or larva in there. Finding queen cups is not a big deal. Some people destroy them. I did before my first year, not really knowing or understanding why they do it, but they're always preparing to swarm. It's honestly not a big deal, like I said. And I mean, you can destroy a queen cup thinking a 2-week cycle is fine, but one of my previous videos, I inspected the colonies and inspected them again a week later, and they had 20 plus queen cells. So they're going to do whatever they want to do as soon as they want to do it. You can only hope to catch them in time. And there's a ton of spun larvae throughout that side of the frame. Really just checking for eggs. And there's eggs down here, which is fantastic. So that means this colony is queen rate. I may go through this entire colony. I'm trying to make up my mind right now, just because it's been a while. Like, a good while, easily over a month, and you could probably hear them starting to get agitated. So let's hit them with some smoke. Calm them down, hopefully. Oh yeah, eggs. Let's see. Yeah, this entire side here is nothing but eggs. So I have no doubt they're queen right. Let's just take a look at this side again. Yep, eggs all over the place. Eggs for days. So they're good. Tell you what, with the high humidity and the higher temperatures, it does not take too long to really start sweating. Oh man, look at this frame. This frame's got some weight to it. That would have been nice to extract as well. But you gotta leave some for the bees, I guess. And this may have been one that I did extract. I can't remember, really. But if it was, they've already filled themselves with nectar. And I'm not feeding them at all right now, so that is 100% natural nectar. Alright, they're starting to get agitated, so I'm going to smoke them down, make room for the division feeder, and add a super and close it up. advertised, it takes up one frame suite, right? But what they don't tell you is if you're trying to add this division board feeder to a colony with established frames that have built up wax and propolis and everything else, it's rather difficult. Either way, it's on there. So just like I said, you may notice I'm trying something different. I'm not going to dig all the way into each colony if I can find evidence of a queen in the form of eggs. So I'm just going to let the bees calm down a little bit. Because clearly they are watching the camera again. And then we'll get into hive number 3. This was a swarm I moved over to our bee yard here from my friend's house. Just about 3+ miles away. So they've been over here for a while now. They should be situated with the area. So what I'm going to do with this is, this was a 5-frame swarm trap that I moved into a 10-frame box. They've been in here for quite a while now, probably close to a month maybe, if not more. So I'm going to add a second beep, but instead of just adding the second beep to the top here, because they're all brand new frames, I'm going to checkerboard between deep 1 and deep 2 to give them plenty of room to move between the boxes and work. And the concept, for those that don't know, is when you checkerboard, by adding another deep, you're enticing them to move up and down and basically just work both boxes. Alright, so let's see how they're doing. Like I said earlier, this is the most time that I have spent in between inspections. I'm usually very active with getting into the bees and making sure they're doing good. So we'll see how this one's looking. I see a few frames, well, a few new frames are still looking pretty new. Yeah, I mean, not too much going on there. Very first frame, you can see they're starting to draw out some wax, but I mean, not too much. Second frame. What do I do with my flashlight? I'll find my flashlight real quick. I think that's what fell. Oh, it's right here. Yeah, second frame, you know, if you can't tell, it's never a bad thing to have a flashlight. I don't see any eggs there. Third frame that faces the outside of the hive, you know, you think, oh, hey, there's not much going on there, but there you go. It's a nice looking brood. But honestly, I don't see any eggs surrounding the brood. Don't let brood fool you. Yeah, so first sign that this may have been the hive that swarmed. So if you catch a swarm, don't think they're, you know, good for the rest of the season. The massive swarm I caught in our backyard moved into a 10 frame. Within 3 weeks, they had already reswarmed. Frame number 4. Okay, I see some eggs now. So maybe this is not the colony that swarmed. Maybe they're still queen right. Yeah, we got some day-old eggs. Yeah, day-old egg, so she's still here doing her thing. But, you know, it's a small colony, so I'll take a look at all the frames. Not too much going on that side. Might not be the best laying queen either, which happens. Maybe that's one of the better frames. Let's take a look at this side. I mean, I can clearly see eggs on this frame easily. So I'm just thinking, the queen has plenty of space to lay eggs, so I don't know if I'm gonna add this like a beef set. It might be pretty early, or yeah, it might still be early to add a deep. I mean, you know, part of my decision is this frame 9. You know, they have a whole frame available to them. All right, so change of plans. I'm not going to add a deep to this colony. They still have plenty of room with some of the newer frames and even some of the older frames. The queen has plenty of room to lay. Alright, so that's easy. But they could probably use some food though. So I'll supplement them a quart jar later using a Boardman feeder. Alright, well, that's simple. But I will leave the 10 frame where it's at because it's blinding. I'm going to get into hive number 4 here and see how they're doing. So this is the colony that I caught, the swarm I caught in the backyard, and within 3 weeks they reswarmed. This is the same colony. I inspected 1 week and found the 2 frames that had 20 queen cells on it. I left 1 queen cell in this colony, which emerged within about 2 weeks. So considering the amount of time since I noticed the queen cells that had hatched, I'm not sure if I made a video of that. You have to check back a few weeks ago. So considering the amount of time, this queen should definitely be in her groove, laying some eggs. Kinda, as always, expected, the outside frame, not really much going on. Alright, let's do this. Let's move the camera closer just a little. Hold on a sec. Get situated. Alright, there we go. Alright, frame number 1. Not too much going on. Frame 2, same thing, kind of, you know, as expected. Frame 3, same thing. Okay. So this is a pretty small colony from what I can tell so far. Nice use of this frame, which is already frame 4. Capping some honey, storing some pollen. So I think part of the reason this colony built up so fast is, well, I guess two-part. One, they were a swarm, so, you know, in theory they were loaded up with honey and ready to look for a home. So they drawed out a lot of comb real fast. And then 2, I fed them a gallon of 1-to-1 syrup within a week, which they drank all of it, packed away a ton of nectar, sugar water, and capped it into honey, cured it. But I think that's what caused them to run out of room as well, and one of the reasons they reswarmed. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're already on frame 6, which looks pretty good. Well, so far, it's hard to tell. I need to get a flashlight to look at that queen cell. If this queen cell has a larva in it, where they're actually preparing to swarm again, it's really hard to tell, but it looks like it. This colony is blowing my mind because I do not see any eggs, which would be very easy to see. Actually, nope, I take that back, I do. So we have some very young eggs right here. They're canted over a little, so at least 2 to 3 days old. So let's cross our fingers to see some more eggs, where I can determine or make the call that this colony is queen right. And some spun larvas. Really looking for some eggs though. And we got some eggs. Spotty. So this was a queen, obviously, from one of the swarm cells. Hatch made it, came back. But from what folks say, sometimes they don't mate properly or good enough. They come back, which is what you want, but their brood patterns are pretty spotty. But nevertheless, if that is the case, the colony determines that the queen's not up to snuff, as folks say, they'll create some queen cells and supersede her. Alright, I can't see anything on this one, so let's get the flashlight. Okay, I mean, there is a ton of spun larvae and some eggs. This queen's doing her thing. And like I've said in a few videos, the sun, you know, rises in the east and hits the left side of the boxes first, which seems to be where the queens like to start laying. So frames like 10 through 7 usually have the best sign of brood. And I always start from the right, which I call frame 1, and work my way to the left. So I'm rather disappointed by the time I start actually seeing eggs and everything. Yeah, there's eggs throughout here, so they're still queen right. Kind of conflicted what I'm gonna do here though, because they have quite a few frames that they can be drawn out and laying eggs on. Alright, let's see. So those are looking good. I'll leave those 3 alone. These 3 alone. I'm going to add one of these frames that they ain't really doing anything with. Over here. I was really expecting this hive and number 3, the swarm that was moved over here about a month ago. I was really expecting that to be booming by now, but for whatever reason they're a little slow going. So hopefully that changes once I start giving them some feed. Let's see, I got one more division board feeder left. Actually, I got 2. Alright, considering I ain't doing crap with that, I'm going to add a division board feeder to this one. Should be pretty easy, considering they don't have too many drawn out frames. Yeah, I was kind of disappointed when I bought these division board feeders at first because they advertised as 1 frame width, which is, it's true, it's not deceptive marketing at all. But what they fail to tell you, what they mean by 1 frames width is when you have all new frames. So as y'all know, as the bees start working frames and everything, that happens. They start building up propolis and wax and everything else. And considering a bee space is what, 3/32 of an inch, so not much. It's a very, very tight fit. Alright, so off camera, I'm going to add the division board feeder to frame number 3 as well, which is still a single deep. And then later today, I'll have to come out and fill them up with some sugar water. Alright, it looks like we're right at an hour with some downtime in between me grabbing equipment and everything. So hey, thanks for watching everybody. Real brief recap, short as possible. Hive number 1 looks good. It's queen right. Didn't dig all the way through it. Made it, I think, all the way through the top deep, which I used as a honey super for this year's harvest. Fantastic idea. Probably pulled 30 plus pounds out of that thing. Added that deep a week ago, and the queen has already started to move up and lay eggs throughout, so that's fantastic. Added a super to number 1 and number 2 with the concept of them taking the rest of this year between whatever's in bloom, which isn't much, and the sugar water. I'm gonna supplement them to draw out the supers. Moved nuke number 1 into a 10 frame, and there looks like some pretty nice activity already on the front. Hopefully that takes off here in the next month to where I can add another deep. The goal this year is to go into winter with every hive as a double deep and very, very strong. A lot of food stores, a lot of capped cured honey, which is most likely sugar water that I'm supplementing them, a lot of pollen, and a solid brood pattern. Alright, so hive number 2 looked good as well. Didn't dig all the way through that. Moved, I think, mostly through the top deep. Found signs of the queen. I ended up pulling 3 deep frames out of that to harvest, which yielded probably, it's hard to say, probably 10 pounds or so. Probably more, actually, because they were solid frames. But they've already fixed all the cells, the hexagons, so I used one of those rollers. It's called an uncapping needle roller, which messes up every single cell. It, uncaps it, of course. And within a week, the bees went through, cleaned everything up enough to where the queen already started laying eggs in it. Alright, added a super to that one as well. This is actually 4, so hive number 3, the camera's on. Doesn't look as good as I thought it would be, considering that this was that very, very strong swarm I caught in the backyard that reswarmed within a few weeks, but it looks like they're slow going to reestablish themselves. But between supplementing them some sugar water here soon, that should be enough to get them going. And then hive 4, that was the swarm I moved over close to a month ago. I'd have to look back at some videos and some posts from my buddy's house. They are very slow going. So again, hopefully supplementing them some sugar water will pique, their interest, of course. And I got 2 empty nukes here, luckily, because next weekend I'm gonna take a look at that swarm trap on the corner of the property, and I'll post a video, of course, but hopefully I'll be moving a swarm into one of these nukes. Alright, so the plan didn't go exactly as I thought today. I was going to add supers to all the hives, all the colonies, but considering 3 and 4 aren't really doing that great. I mean, not that great. They have a laying queen and everything. They're just not booming. And considering I just condensed the nuke, or expanded the nuke, from a 5 frame into a 10 frame, I'm going to give them some time before adding the supers. So nothing better than hauling equipment back to the house, which is like the worst thing in the world to me, but either way. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching Cole's Farm. June 16th, probably close to 11 o'clock or so by now. Again, dads, happy Father's Day. Spend some time with your kiddos. And speaking of, that's it for me. I'm going to wrap it up here in the bee yard in a few minutes, just clean up some equipment and go hang out with the family. Next Saturday, or this Saturday, June 22nd, 10 to 4 p.m., honey sale. First come, first serve. We got a few pre-orders, so those jars of honey are spoken for, but everybody else around the Jacksonville, North Carolina area, just come on by and pick up a jar of Cole's Farm honey. It is, I have a biased opinion, of course, because it's, honey from our bee farm here, but it is absolutely delicious. It is very light, a very, very light amber color, and it's just very pleasing on your palate. So come on by, pick some up. Details are on our Facebook page. I have an event. Mark yourself as going or interested, so I know to expect you, and hopefully see y'all then. That's that.